Wait here from doctor no. Where are they?
Ebio.
What must I do?
20 cedis.
This is Tiabako. Ghana Bab, young Toa, and first at Tiabako, and for 20 cedis.
Hey! The doctor. Nemo, say, the Ghana come. Sound two, so also. If you make a Ghana, you can resist.
Oh, Charlie, that's my friend over there. Hey, Azoto. Hey, Azoto. What's up? Charlie, how? Charlie, did you go for the test we talked about the other time?
Oh, yeah, man, I do them simple.
Oh, you do them?
Oh, I do them.
Hey, Azoto.
I do them.
Charlie, this is great. Oh, guys, pardon. This is my friend Azoto, another bold, wise person who is just taking the HIV test.
Wow! That's a wise decision, man.
Azoto, we a Berman Kasan. You be the man. You there for
What?
That's really a respectable decision.
Of course, it's time for testing. It's no big deal getting tested for HIV. The days of stigma are long.
There is life.
The petitioner, that is His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, on some of the observations that they had made of irregularities that were significant in terms of the credibility and integrity of the results. They left in good faith in the expectation that after consultation they were going to come back and then continue with the process as stipulated by law. However, as you all witnessed, that was not to be. Immediately they left. A few minutes after they left the strong room, the chairperson of the Electoral Commission surreptitiously and hurriedly went ahead to declare the results in their absence. Now, she basically ran all the time-honored practices and conventions that were established by her predecessors. There is a precedent that was established in 2012, where the New Patriotic Party agents raised a number of issues relating to the results that were coming in. The former chairperson of the commission, in the person of Dr. Afarijan, called a meeting of all the parties and their agents and the key stakeholders. And they sat around the table, addressed those concerns that were put before him, and then ultimately declared the results. And we were all witnesses to what happened thereafter. The current president brought a petition together with his vice president and the late Jake Obichebi-Lamte to the Supreme Court, and it played out for 8 months before the Ghanaian public. So what happened on that day when she decided that she was not going to wait for them, out of respect and courtesy and in accordance with due process of law, to consult with His Excellency John Dramani Mahama before coming back for them to redress the issues, the concerns that had been raised, shows the utmost bad faith that she exhibited. It also shows that she was determined, and this bears repeating, she was determined that by hook or by crook, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo would be declared the president-elect of the Republic of Ghana. Now, I am sure as you watched, there was a lot of, how would I say, questions relating to the so-called Form 13. Now, that is the presidential elections, declaration of presidential results form. You notice, for instance, that counsel for the first respondent on his feet tried to smuggle in the Form 13, the so-called Form 13, through the back door, because that wasn't an exhibit attached to the witness statement of Dr. Kwesa White. When lead counsel for the petitioner, Mr. Tachuchi Kata, objected, and his objection was upheld, one of the justices of the Supreme Court, to our utter surprise, decided that that must be made an issue with respect to the evidence of Mr. Kwesa White, Dr. Kwesa White, sorry. And through her, the form was shown to Dr. Kwesa White. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the media, Form 13 is not a figment of anybody's imagination. It is a creature of statute. It is in CI 127. Now, Dr. Kwesa White made it abundantly clear, and I am sure this will come out during cross-examination, that what was shown to him was not Form 13. And counsel for the first respondent was in court. He did not object to the fact that Dr. Kwesa White described it vividly as a form other than Form 13. Now, what does that tell you about the credibility and integrity of the elections results that were declared by the chairperson of the Electoral Commission? If you can declare elections on a fictitious form, and I say fictitious advisedly because that form does not conform to CI 127. So where did she get that form from? We will leave that for you in your questioning of the EC, in your questioning of the second respondent, to elicit the information with respect to where that form was gotten from. Then also the venue of the declaration. They sent invitation letters earlier to all the parties. Conference center. And we were all aware that the declaration of the presidential results for December 2020 was going to take place at the International Conference Center. But because of the lack of good faith and the fact that she was operating from a predetermined position of declaring the results in favor of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, immediately our agents, the agents of the petitioner, left. She hurriedly went upstairs and declared the results in their absence. And now they are in court blaming our agents for leaving, even though it was at her instance that they left. And by the way, you don't need to communicate to two people before your message will sink. She communicated with Honorable Rojo Metil-Nunu regarding the consultation with the former president, now the petitioner. And so it was not absolutely necessary for Dr. Kwesa White to have had a conversation with her before proceeding to go with Rojo Metil-Nunu to see the former president. So if you saw the line of cross-examination by lawyer for the first respondent, and then subsequently and unfortunately by some of the justices of the Supreme Court, indicating that Dr. Kwesa White ought to have been present when the conversation took place. That was rather unfortunate. And you saw some of the scenes that played out in court today, where the witness was being harassed left, right, center, because his evidence clearly was against the grain of the narrative that the EC and Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's lawyers have been trying to put out.
Why both of them left?
That both of them left because they did not want to, I mean, they noticed that their candidate was losing. So we are here today in very high spirits. I can see from the, the faces and the body language of Professor Nana Jane Opogajiman and my chairman that we had a wonderful day in court. And I am sure that, in fairness, if this evidence is anything to go by, on Judgment Day, we will be smiling. Any questions?
Doc, from the very beginning, when the EC chair was appointed, your party had raised concerns about her being fair during the elections. And you had a time where you had Dr. Kwesa White and the other representative being in the strong room, going to the EC chair to go and have conversation with her. You've always had doubts about her fairness. When she told you that you could go and meet your petitioner, with this precedence of you doubting her fairness, why didn't you allow one of your representatives to remain at the strong room whilst the other goes? Because you always doubted her fairness anyway.
Right. Now, we did that. The witness himself explained why that is the case, and that was because the two of them played different roles as agents of the petitioner. And it was important that they both, would go and explain the concerns that had been, observed. So, for instance, if Roger Metil-Nunu forgot something in explaining to the petitioner, then Dr. Kwesa White could fill in the gaps. And we left it good. And then also, we gave her the benefit of the doubt. We left in good faith because she was performing a constitutional duty. That's correct. And we thought that she would go by the letter and spirit of the Constitution, and that she would also go by the letter and spirit of CI 127, which require that you don't finalize, okay, and sign off the results of a presidential election without the agents of the political parties. These are time-honored principles and conventions that have been established within the EC and within IPAC for purposes of the declaration of results and for the sustenance of the credibility of results. That didn't happen. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Counsel. Having listened to the testimony of Dr. Kwesa White, most of his testimony bothered on information given to him by Mr. Roger Metil-Nunu. Would you have rather presented Roger Metil-Nunu as a witness?
Oh, no, I don't think that matters. The fact is that there were two agents of the petitioner working in concert to advance the interests of the petitioner. And so relying on one agent's information or advice with respect to what to do, for me, that doesn't matter. It doesn't take away from the fact that the chairperson of the Electoral Commission acted in bad faith. Any more questions?
Yes, Doc. A number of very short questions. Number one, listening to you, I get the impression that some of the judges misunderstood the case that was being presented by your witness. Indeed, the witness himself had to, on several occasions, try to address and readdress some of the concerns. Now, these are the people going to pass judgment on the case that you have brought before them. If they have misunderstood you, and on the other hand, you are saying on Judgment Day you will be smiling, will you indeed be smiling? Number two, indulge me, please. Number two, there's a question of harassment of the witness. Indeed, a lot of us watching who are not lawyers and who have always held the court in high esteem, and the judges for that matter, were scared at a point when we saw the witness in a kind of a direct confrontation with some members of the bench. And indeed, the lead counsel did same on the question of harassment, which matter you have repeated here. Is it safe for you and your case with that kind of a direct confrontation with the bench? And finally, the former president had attended to...
I think you are going too far. Can we take your questions one at a time? I'm even beginning to forget your first question. Right? So let's take your one at a time. Can you summarize, crisply, the first question, and I'll take that and we proceed to the second one.
Okay. So the first question has to do with some members of the bench misunderstanding your case.
Okay.
Are you worried about that?
I don't think so. As an experienced practitioner, I am quite sure that they understood what Dr. Kwesa White was saying. I am pretty sure there was nothing unclear about the evidence that he gave. All right? Judges are allowed to ask questions for clarification. What they are not allowed to do in terms of the law and ethics of judging is to descend into the arena of conflict. Now, as to whether they descended into the arena of conflict, I will leave that to you to judge.
Number two, on the question of conflict and harassment, what we saw in court, for a lot of us who don't understand the court processes, is it healthy for you and your case?
I don't
direct confrontation with the bench.
I don't think that detracts from the probative value of the evidence that has been given. Okay, he did a good job of standing up. Okay, as far as the issues that he was called upon to address are concerned. He was very credible. He was eloquent, and you heard the judges saying that he should stop lecturing.
Number three, finally, the former president, whose case it is, had attended to the court diligently up to the end of last week. The whole of this week, I haven't seen him. Just asking, where is he?
Oh,
and how is he?
The former president is well, and carrying on, the business of being the leader of the NDC. Of course, the party chairman ably represents him on a daily basis. In fact, chairman has never been absent, and I am sure, of course, the running mate is here as the person who was on the ticket with him, and she has not also absented herself even once from court. So there's no issue about representation. The former president is not required to be in court on a daily basis in order for his case to be heard. Otherwise, if that were the case, I'm sure the judges would have been asking where he is. Since they haven't asked, it's in order.
Doc, you've put in a request to inspect some documents. Earlier, I had seen a process that was directed at the Electoral Commission. Right. If you could explain how this is different from that one. And secondly, looking through the list of the documents, are those not documents that are supposed to be in the custody of the petitioner through his agents? And I also recall that this issue came up in the 2012-2013 petition as well. Yeah,
that is so. You will recall that we filed a notice to inspect the documents. The notice was duly served on the respondents, and the first respondent in particular has custody of all those documents. And by the way, this is to inspect the originals. It's not about us not having the documents. We want to authenticate what was provided to us and what has been put on the website of the Electoral Commission, and that motion will be heard, tomorrow. So I wouldn't want to take up some time on that one.
All right, Doc, thank you. I'd like to help to break down one of the issues to the understanding of our viewers. It's got to do with the witness using the words asked and instructed. To ask is not the same as to instruct somebody. He used the words interchangeably. He doesn't work for the EC and therefore should not have been seen to be taking instructions from the EC. And if the EC actually asked him to do something, he wasn't compelled to do that. You've spoken about acting in good faith. Yet, as my brother asked earlier, you had expressed some unfaithfulness in the EC itself. And so where did the good faith all of a sudden spring up from?
Okay, thank you very much. On the question of the difference between asking and instructing, I think Dr. Kwesa White used instruct in order to emphasize on the fact that they accorded some level of respect because she is the authority, the ultimate authority. She is a returning officer under the Constitution. And all the political party agents in that strong room worked, if you like, on her instructions, on whatever direction she gave, to the agents. And so the fact that he used the word instruct does not in any way, suggest, okay, that they were taking instructions from her instead of taking instructions from His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. Remember that the petitioner was their principal, and as agent they worked, directly to the principal and for the benefit of the interests of the principal. And so I don't think that it makes any difference whether they took instructions from her or they asked, they were asked to go and consult with the former president, and they duly, complied. As I said earlier, they were acting in good faith. Little did they know that the person they were dealing with was acting in bad faith, or intended to act in bad faith. Yes, and they came back after 45 minutes. Okay, and the question is, why could she not wait? Okay, we waited. This was on the 9th, right? We waited 2 days for the results. We could have waited another hour for the results to be credibly, compiled and released to the people of this country. Yes, yes, but the thing is this, my brother, okay? She is the only constitutional officer that you have to work with. She is the sole constitutional officer that you have to work with. So the fact that we express, some reservations about her even-handedness and so on prior to the elections, doesn't mean that we could have stayed away from working with her. And we decided that we're going to work with her in good faith. She decided otherwise.
All right. So
thank you very much.
Let me do that count quickly. Wait. Sorry. Anyone say near a sea or court and then a Samoa. And Debia Samoa can say electoral commission. As our bonny team posse. Kwambia no Obama eye Nana Akufo-Addo aye president no enne wo hwe Obemfo Kwesa White ne nsamo de beto eye court enim no ede di pefe se edu ba bi kura no odada ye nibe na musifo anom wo dem ho se omunko no omne eye John Dramani Mahama candidate no eno nkodi nkita ho esan nsem bi ana o mapega enko ye wo dem ho ewi echire no omusi abonten omukoya no enusima mienu anamiensa kra no okoye and oko declare elections no na edika o se hunu se na wanye dika ka kire Ghana for in as election ye be declare no awo conference center ensu ka kire wom se wom nkoni ne nkodi nkita no momfamu ayemra no omusi abonten enu 45 minutes and omukoye na electoral commission dem ho Omoko declare at the end. And then so I say form will be or use declare results no form no ha. And then judges move back who ebisa form in fact electoral commission judge no say go obisa but obisa no yama no ho kwan because na at the end any evidence no. And then yenya judge no opeja say onhwe form yi na say form we no baby o wa yesa na form or the buyer no sa form no enye form e wo mrem form e wo mrem no enie CI 127 a kira form ko yemfa declare results no in this when you use that form and declare results na elect the results no e papa ana enye papa ni etwa to okura e atetia ene Dr. Kwesa White oti adakanum na yeso na basa yeso na TV yeso na chi adentie sense asamo kano o kire kwantre ne ni esi odem ho emma ye lead council eye owura tatuchika the story ka say we eye atetea ne obroni friend harassment no emfata say ebesi Supreme Court ba mu ina mu hui but enna ne esi no ye NDC for the em say ye ni age akon yie senia na ye pe no nokre no akyase edi na enim se ye kwa enim no nokre na nkasa ebededi ya sa file application bi ye pese ye kokotwe electoral commission documents odi man na original na odi man no ye pese ye kokohwe ochina na Supreme Court behwe no ohwe no nso a ye beto tefo ye dem wase.
Thank you. Good summary. Yeah.
Baba, Nare. Or go.
Then he's a correspondent. I feel alone. Oh, my guy, I told propaganda.
You have a good balance today.
Yeah. Colleagues, good afternoon. We want to share with you a few thoughts as the court rises to resume sitting tomorrow morning. First of all, we on the side of the second respondent view today's proceedings as a very excellent day in court. And it's an excellent day for us in court because the issues are beginning to unfold one after the other before the eyes of all Ghanaians. Remember, this is a petitioner who came to court praying or invoking the powers of the Supreme Court that the results of the 2020 presidential election, when properly collated, come to a point where nobody got 50%. And therefore, they are asking for a rerun. And you would expect that they put witnesses in the box to advance this argument or